Well, as you can see, I am truly from away.
A group from Australia making its mark in Western Maine.
You go elsewhere in the States and you get different reactions, but it's always warm and friendly in Maine.
After 2 years of idle ski lifts, Magella Group, based out of Brisbane, Australia, but with an office in Portland, has high hopes for Saddleback Mountain.
To the premier ski resort in North America.
This purchase announcement is bittersweet for the Saddleback Mountain Foundation, a local effort that had collected over $1 million in community donations in the hopes of opening the mountain as a nonprofit. The group denied multiple interview requests, but did release a statement that reads in part, "We wish them the best for this vibrant mountain, and we're excited for the lifts to be spinning again."
We have met with them on several occasions, but basically they would have been doing it on a shoestring.
Current owner Bill Berry says he and his wife agreed to sell the entire mountain and over 6,000 acres of land to the Magella Group, mainly because of its resources, and in the hopes that the mountain will become a 4-season destination.
I hope it stays as a family mountain.
You know, while it took a lot of time and it was challenging for everybody and stressful at times, I think it's really worked out the best that it could for everybody involved.
The new Saddleback will have some local flair, running under local CEO Fred LaMontagne, the former chief of the Portland Fire Department. Locals will also complete the mountain operations and management team. When asked about making a commitment to hiring Mainers,
Obviously, roles will be initiated here first.
I think that, you know, anyone who works with us is from Maine, you know, and I think that's the way we just got to look at it. And so for us, it's about getting the right people.
there isn't a definitive timeline yet for when the mountain will be up and running. And as representatives from Magella Group say, they're competing with Mother Nature. They do say, though, the first step in that process will be the installation of new high-tech ski lifts that can accommodate over 1,000 riders per hour. In Rangeley, Christina Rex, News Center.
Our business is just indicative to the ski industry.
It's been tough without them.
Absolutely deserted. You come down off the mountain and go to a restaurant, you'd be the only one sitting.
Somewhere around 25 to 30%, of our winter business.
Cut back staffing.
Without that, we suffer greatly.
Hi, are you Mrs. Berry?
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system.
I had left you guys a couple voicemails.
Our instructions are not to say anything.
Tight lips and closed doors. 5 months after hope was at an all-time high.
Premier ski resort in North America.
A promise to make Saddleback Mountain a 4-season destination and bring life back to Rangeley.
Everything excites me about this project. I mean, who couldn't be excited about Maine?
Ski season is here, but no skiers are on Saddleback.
A lot of people say I drove up, I didn't see anything happening. Well, maybe you went at the wrong time.
Locals staying hopeful, relying on infrequent Facebook posts for slivers of information about their beloved mountain. In September, the only thing that is going to hold up or delay this process is Mother Nature. In October, please do not take our silence as a lack of progress, rather a focus on the task at hand. And in November, we are continuing to work to successfully finalize this sale. We've encountered delays that have impacted our timelines. Monthly promises that though the sale isn't final, work is being done. All written by Magella CEO Sebastian Mansour.
As we've said before, this is a complex deal that has many conditions to the sale that we're working through with our financiers.
What exactly does this mean? The Brisbane-based CEO won't say. A source familiar with the Saddleback deal tells News Center there is a plan in place to complete the transaction upon receipt of the funding. Translation? The money isn't there yet.
The delay in this case, you said in the Facebook post that it's on your end. So is it financial?
We're working with our funders and our financiers, as I said, on this very complex deal to ensure that we don't just have the funds to close, but we actually have the funds to move forward. We're getting a whole package, not just to close the mountain, but actually develop and continue on for years to come.
Magella, the organization that once billed itself as the leading developer in southeast Queensland, Australia, was supposed to pay and finalize the sale at the end of the summer. With snow on the mountain, if the group doesn't come up with the money soon, the deal could fall apart entirely.
Many of them are hopeful, but there's also that fear that this sale never gets finalized, is there a chance this doesn't go through?
I and Magellan are committed to the deal.
Yeah, Pat and Cindy, after 3 ski seasons of idle lifts and slower tourism in Rangeley, Australian developer Saddleback Mansour promised change.
To the premier ski resort in North America.
Locals were hopeful the economy would be revitalized this winter after being told in June the mountain would open to some extent. 8 months later, Mansour hasn't produced the money to close this sale. Now, it's important to point out that we don't know financially exactly what's going on behind closed doors. This is a private sale, and neither side is talking. This audio recording we received is from September. It has been authenticated by 2 other Magellan employees who were in that staff meeting. Take a listen.
We're not going to deliver on Saddleback. Saddleback was always going to be tight. The Saddleback, we have never promised to actually deliver the lift this year. We're still going to try. I'm going to be on the phone to Saddleback owners this evening. We are going to try and close early on Saddleback. I don't have to close till December 15th. We're going to try and do it earlier so I can get the lift going and whatnot. Now, I also just want to point out that opening the mountain in Saddleback for the Saddleback Resort is not a primary concern for us. Getting Saddleback is. The EB5 program is the reason we're actually doing Saddleback. The mountain and opening the mountain is something we'd like to achieve. But if we don't, we're not going to lose any sleep with regards to it.
6 months ago, Magellan CEO Saddleback Mansour said the reason he was buying Saddleback Mountain was for the U.S. EB5 visa program. So what is EB5? It's the government's immigration investor program that lets foreign investors get permanent residency here in the U.S. In rural areas like Rangeley, if you invest at least $500,000 in a business that creates 10 U.S. jobs, you and your family become eligible for green cards. Other investors can chip in too, with the same guidelines, a $500,000 investment and 10 more jobs, and they and their families are eligible for green cards as well. We received more than 2 hours of audio recordings from Magellan staff meetings. In that same September meeting, Saddleback Mansour announced the company did not have enough money to pay its employees.
We're an asset-rich, cash-poor situation at the moment. I have a very, very, very small amount of funds. We will be late for the first time on payroll for everybody this week.
We interviewed 2 former Magellan employees and a former contractor who asked to remain anonymous for fear of retaliation by the company. They say they weren't paid from September until they quit in early December and still haven't been paid for those 2 months. We don't know if Magellan payroll has started again since then. Our repeated requests to talk with CEO Saddleback Mansour have been declined or gone unanswered. We also offered to play this tape for the Berry family, the current owners of Saddleback, who are still waiting for their money from the Magellan Group. This is what Bill Berry told our cameras in June.
I hope it stays as a family mountain.
We told the Berry family we have evidence suggesting that the EB5 program is the primary motivation for the deal. Through their advisor, Chris Farmer, they declined our offer and our request for an interview. The former employees and contractor we interviewed did have a message for the people of Rangeley.
This is never happening with Magellan.
And from our source who says he keeps up with the Saddleback community online.
Whilst that stays open, there's a glimmer of hope, and that just destroys any opportunity for another deal, the ability for another investor to come in and do something, the ability for people to move on with their lives.
Obviously, the mountain still hasn't opened this ski season, nor has that sale been finalized. We reached out to Saddleback Mansour, as we showed you multiple times. He did originally respond to us via email, but he stopped responding as soon as we told him we had that audio recording of an internal staff meeting.
Interesting. That's good digging.
Yeah,
thanks, Christina.
Thank you.
New details are emerging in the prolonged sale of Saddleback Mountain. The Australian developer who agreed to buy the mountain hasn't yet closed the deal 8 months after it was announced.
We've followed this story from day one. On Tuesday, we aired a September audio recording leaked to News Center Maine that appears to show Magellan Group CEO Sebastian Mansour telling his staff that he was buying Saddleback not with the goal of reopening the mountain, but to get in on a U.S. foreign investor immigration program. Christina Rex is here with more on this developing story.
Chris and Lindsay, a contractor and 2 former Magellan employees in Australia told us they weren't paid for months of work. That Magellan pay delay has allegedly made its way to Maine now. A Mainer and former Magellan employee who worked at Saddleback is suing the company for almost $30,000 he says he's owed. The plaintiff, Perry Williams, a Rangeley resident who was hired as a consultant for Magellan on January 1st, 2017. The lawsuit says Williams and Magellan agreed upon $5,000 a month for his consulting services on the Saddleback Mountain project. He says he was paid until February 17th, 2017, and then the payments stopped. On June 28th, Magellan CEO Sebastian Mansour announced the company would buy Saddleback Mountain, which at the time had sat idle for 2 ski seasons.
Premier ski resort in North America.
According to the lawsuit filed at Cumberland County Superior Court, 10 days later, Perry Williams signed on with Magellan as an official employee. He agreed to a salary of $110,000 a year plus benefits, but allegedly still hadn't been paid for those 5 months of consulting services. Starting on July 14th, the lawsuit says Magellan paid Williams just over $2,000 every week until October 27th, when the court documents say those payments stopped. On November 9th, Williams was let go, his position eliminated. A letter from that day shows Perry Williams was owed $29,711.54. According to documents, Magellan agreed. That letter is signed by Aussie CEO Sebastian Mansour and U.S. CEO Fred Lamontagne. Williams claims in that lawsuit he still hasn't been paid what he's owed. That lawsuit was filed on January 31st. Magellan has requested multiple extensions for their response and has a final deadline to respond by May 11th. Now here's a list of people we have reached out to multiple times regarding what we've learned. Sebastian Mansour, Magellan's Australian CEO, Fred Lamontagne, Magellan's U.S. CEO, Jim Quimby, a Magellan employee at Saddleback, Chris Farmer, the Berry family's advisor, Bill and Irene Berry, the current owners of Saddleback, and their son Mark Berry, another owner. All of our requests for comment have either been denied or ignored. Sebastian Mansour did respond to the Bangor Daily News request for comment and is quoted as saying, "We were looking into the EB5 program, but it is not a priority funding model for Magellan, and we're finalizing other funding models that make more sense for Magellan to get this deal done and the mountain reopened. It should also be clarified that any EB5 program or approval requires job creation and that Saddleback would have to be operational and running for use in any EB5 program and not the other way around." And when the BDN asked Sebastian to comment on the audio recording we played on our air on Tuesday, in which he says he's going to miss payroll because the company is, quote, cash poor, he said he wouldn't comment on internal meetings or financial statements.
The Australian developer who is trying to buy Saddleback Mountain is being sued again, this time in Australia, for millions of dollars.
He's accused of deceit and taking advantage of an Australian visa program. Christina Rex is here with more details today.
Yeah, Lee and Lindsay, a Chinese investor is suing Sebastian Mansour and his company Magellan. Now, that's the same company that hasn't come up with the money yet to close that sale on Saddleback Mountain. The lawsuit says Sebastian pitched a Magellan investment to Mr. Fu Shang Li last January, touting various accomplishments in property development, including the Williston West Church in Portland, Saddleback Mountain, and a massive Portland waterfront project that includes nearly 300 condos, retail space, and a veterans hospital. Here's the thing. That waterfront project doesn't exist and was never even approved by the city of Portland. We know the Saddleback Mountain sale isn't closed, and that church is actually up for sale and no longer affiliated with Magellan, according to the realtor selling it. Now, these overstated accomplishments are just minor details in the grand scheme of this lawsuit. Accusations of lying, stealing money, and abusing a foreign visa program are at the heart of this suit, which is still ongoing. $5 million. That's how much a Chinese businessman says Magellan owes him. Mr. Li wanted to bring his business and his family to Australia. He did so through the country's significant investor visa program by wiring $5 million to Sebastian Mansour's company. According to the lawsuit, that money was supposed to be invested in specific visa-compliant programs. The Australian Significant Investor Visa Program is similar to the U.S. EB-5 program, where foreign investors can create U.S. jobs and qualify for a green card. That's a program that Sebastian Mansour at one time took interest in regarding Saddleback Mountain. Just 1 week ago, we released this tape from September, sent to us by a former Magella contractor.
The EB-5 program is the reason we're actually doing Saddleback. The mountain and opening the mountain is something we'd like to achieve, but if we don't, we're not going to lose any sleep with regards to it.
Mansour has since told multiple newspapers that the EB-5 program was at one time a finance option for getting Saddleback, but that he's now seeking other options. In the case with the Chinese businessman, Mr. Lee says he trusted Mansour at first, but knew something was wrong when he didn't get the interest payments he was owed. The court ordered Sebastian Mansour to tell the businessman what he had done with the $5 million. The answer? Property projects in Brisbane, Magella payroll, corporate payments, and $400,000 sent to his office in the U.S. for various expenses. Mr. Lee says none of this is what he agreed to and is suing to get that $5 million back.
One piece that will be interesting to Mainers is that those court documents actually include Magella's proposed plans for Saddleback Mountain. Now, these are plans that we have not laid eyes on, so this is the first time we've seen them since that sale was announced 9 months ago. We'll be putting those on our websites and mobile apps for everyone to see. Lee and Lindsay?